Tonight, we're in Washington for a historic moment in American politics. Donald Trump has been impeached.
He gave us no choice.
The vote, the response.
We did nothing wrong.
And where it all leaves a deeply divided country. SNC-Lavalin pleads guilty in a case that damaged the Trudeau Liberals.
You don't get do-overs in politics.
After a huge cyber attack, LifeLabs cannot say whether your medical records were encrypted.
We didn't ask for the cancer in the first place. We didn't really ask for this either.
Their breast implants could cause cancer, so why won't some provinces pay to remove the implants? This is The National. You are looking at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, the site tonight of a remarkable moment. In that building, Donald Trump just became the third U.S. president ever to be impeached. The months-long journey to this point, starting with that July phone call between Trump and the president of Ukraine, has been very public and very partisan. We're here on this blustery, cold night because this is where the story is centered. But the ramifications of that vote go far beyond that building.
All in favor, say aye.
Today's vote puts Trump one step closer to possibly being removed from office, though that would require the Republican-held Senate to vote him out. Beyond that, there is next November to consider, the next presidential election. The gamble for Democrats, whether impeaching Trump today will help turn Americans against him or them. We'll have a look at that, as well as how Trump is reacting tonight.
By the way, it doesn't really feel like we're being impeached, do you?
But we start with what happened inside that room on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers impeached the president for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Paul Hunter with the drama that led to that historic decision.
In the end, it was a simple vote count, tallied electronically live on TV. The result, historic. Donald Trump impeached. But what a day leading up to that.
Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors.
In the run-up to the vote, just hearing the words from inside the U.S. Capitol building.
Article 1, abuse of power.
And the allegations.
Article 2, obstruction of Congress.
Underlining the stakes for Donald Trump. For more than 7 hours, they debated the allegations against him yet again.
Our founders' vision of a republic is under threat from actions from the White House.
Say Democrats, Trump abused the presidency for his own political gain by pressuring Ukraine to dig up dirt on Trump rival Joe Biden, and then that Trump obstructed the investigation into that.
He gave us no choice. Never before in the history of our nation have we seen a president declare and act if he is above the law.
But for the courage of someone willing to blow the whistle, he would have gotten away with it. Instead, he got caught. He tried to cheat, and he got caught.
Indeed, one after another, Democrats made their view clear, at times with passion.
When you see something that is not right, not just, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Our children and their children will ask us, what did you do? What did you say?
But equally, as has been the case throughout, Republicans countered.
This vote, this day, is about one thing and one thing only. They hate this president.
Enough of this impeachment circus. Enough of these sham witch hunts. I'm voting no because the president has done nothing wrong.
But in the end, Donald Trump has been impeached. Paul, you were in that House chamber for a lot of that debate today. What was it like?
It was sobering, right? I mean, you feel it when you're sitting in the chamber. You know, at some point I realized, yeah, this is where they had the State of the Union address, including Donald Trump.
Right.
So you feel the sense of history. And then the clerk says the words, right? Donald J. Trump, and abuse of power, obstruction of Congress. And you realize it's actually happening. They're impeaching a president tonight. I say sobering because regardless of your politics, this is not a happy night in this country. This is now the legacy of Donald Trump. And in that room today, you felt that.
Okay, Paul, thanks very much. All day, as debate rang out inside the House of Representatives, reaction rolled in outside, first from protesters, and then, as Susan Ormison shows us, from the president himself.
By the way, it doesn't really feel like we're being impeached.
As the 45th president seemingly shucked off the stain, Trump Nation rallied.
Nothing wrong.
In the shadow of Capitol Hill, so did Democrats.
Show me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Show me what democracy looks like!
Reveling in the day they'd longed for.
The majority of Americans believe he should be impeached and removed.
But Congress and this country are both sharply divided, even more angry.
We do not live in a world that adheres to the facts. He will not be
you get your facts from the establishment media.
And you're mad because you can't win.
Tim Collins stops to shout back at the demonstrators.
They lost the election. They've been harassing our president since day one. They need to leave him alone.
Any solemn victory for Democrats is limited by the political reality that impeaching this president will not put him out of office. Do you think impeachment has power if he's not removed?
Yes. But this is a man right now whose behavior seems to know no bounds. So it may be more for the country than for him.
But Donald Trump will play impeachment as a nasty plot, says Hans Knoll.
This is the elites, Congress, the Democrats, the media, all out to get Trump. And so if you go to a Trump rally, that's what he's going to say already, and he's going to be able to segue naturally into anything that comes out of the impeachment to fit that narrative.
With this president, there will be no apology. He will cleave the country still, says Samuel Porter.
Forget the impeachment for a moment. He just divides us, and it's just not right. This man brings out the worst in all of us, and he just really divides us, and it's not cool.
We wish you would leave the White House sometime next year.
Parody or not, there is little chance of that.
We won't go till you get out, so get out right now!
So a historic day, Susan, and not just here in Washington, I guess, but across the country, right?
Yeah, I mean, the impact won't be felt tomorrow or even in the weeks. It'll be measured in months when we see really if impeachment still matters, if it galvanizes voters. We know that it will be used in campaigns. It already has. And I was struck, Adrian, by some of the people at that rally who conceded reluctantly that it won't remove this president, but it is a statement of what they say is disgust with this president. On the other hand, Republican voters have said they feel this was a bold attempt to nullify their vote, and now more than ever, they're not going to let that happen. So, in a way, the campaign for 2020 has just started, Adrian.
All right, Susan, thanks very much. So, Trump is impeached, but tonight he is still the president of the United States. Removing him from office would take a conviction in the Senate, which is where all of this heads next. The Republican-held Senate will now hold a trial with senators sitting as the jury. There's no date set yet, but it's widely expected to start in January. Beforehand, Democrats and Republicans will try to work out the rules, including who to call or not call as witnesses. That's a point that's already proving contentious. It's really not clear how long the trial will last, but weeks is a pretty safe bet. And in the end, it would take an unlikely 2/3 vote to convict Trump and remove him from office. So there is certainly a lot to talk about tonight. How will it affect the 2020 race for the White House? What will be the impact on the Democrats and the Republicans? Our whole panel of U.S. political insiders are all standing by. We will speak with them in about a half an hour from now. So let's head to Canada now for the plot twist in a huge political saga. SNC-Lavalin had its day in court and managed to dodge the outcome it feared most. Justin Trudeau was hammered for months over this case, accused of meddling in the justice system by pressing his minister to defer a criminal prosecution. Alison Northcott shows us how a court pretty much delivered what Trudeau could not.
Relief for SNC-Lavalin at the Montreal courthouse. A very public legal fight finally over. SNC's construction division pleaded guilty to fraud. It now admits it paid millions to Saadi Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, to try to win contracts. Now the company will pay a $280 million penalty and spend 3 years under probation. The Crown insists it's not a slap on the wrist.
I challenge everyone to find a fine that is higher than that for a criminal offense by a company.
Charges of corruption against the main company were withdrawn, so SNC-Lavalin won't be barred from bidding on public contracts, which had been its worst-case scenario.
The fact that the charges are now no longer pending over the head of the company is good. The uncertainty around that kind of proceedings is bad for business, is bad for the company.
In an agreed statement of facts, SNC-Lavalin Construction said it paid for 2 trips to Canada Saadi Gaddafi took in 2008 and 2009, covering his security, hotel and private parties. The company even paid to decorate Gaddafi's Toronto condo. Today's deal comes just days after a former company executive was found guilty on fraud and corruption charges, but both sides stressed today that was a separate case.
In a statement, SNC-Lavalin apologized for the past misconduct and called the settlement an opportunity to move forward. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
So if SNC got what it wanted, did Justin Trudeau trigger a political nightmare for no good reason? David Cochrane has the Prime Minister's response and reaction from his former Justice Minister.
Jody Wilson-Raybould says this is what she wanted all along, for SNC-Lavalin to be left to prosecutors. She tweeted, 2019 began with very public questions about the rule of law in our country. I am glad to see it end with that principle being upheld. The justice system did its work. Turns out this is essentially what SNC-Lavalin wanted all along as well.
I think it means they can turn the page, they can move forward without worrying about the uncertainty of a trial, what the consequences would be.
SNC-Lavalin didn't get a deferred prosecution agreement, but it got the next best thing. A guilty plea with a big fine and probation, but no ban from federal contracts.
What I've heard so far is that it'll be good for the jobs.
Which is what this was all about.
The company will be able to continue to have access to public contracts. So that's about, in principle, what we wanted.
So after unleashing a furious lobbying campaign to pressure a prime minister to pressure a justice minister, SNC-Lavalin's lawyers worked it out for themselves, leaving a damaged government in their wake.
There are things we could have, should have, would have done differently had we known.
In an interview with the Canadian press, Trudeau was asked if it was worth it. A tough year that cost him his top advisor, his top civil servant, 2 of his top cabinet ministers.
You don't get do-overs in politics. You only, do the best you can to protect jobs, to respect the independence of the judiciary, and that's exactly what we did every step of the way.
But this ultimately unfolded the way she wanted it to. Prosecutors made the call, not politicians. On the same day, the Canadian press named Jody Wilson-Raybould Newsmaker of the Year. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
A high-profile name could be entering the race to replace Andrew Scheer. Sources are telling Radio-Canada that Jean Charest is considering a run to lead the federal Conservative Party. Members of the Tory caucus are reported to be courting the former Quebec premier. He also served as cabinet minister in the government of Brian Mulroney. But Charest comes with some controversy. For years, the province's anti-corruption squad has been investigating the Quebec Liberal Party's financing during the Charest period. He maintains he did nothing wrong. Lots of questions still about that massive data breach at LifeLabs. Yesterday, the medical testing company revealed it had been the victim of a cyber attack. Millions of Canadians may have had their most personal information exposed to hackers. Jacqueline Hansen now on the implications of that.
To family physician Iris Gorfinkel, the LifeLabs breach is a healthcare provider's nightmare.
They broke through LifeLabs. They could break through any one of us, and that's the truth.
LifeLabs is just the latest target in the healthcare industry. 3 Ontario hospitals were recently attacked, their computer systems held for ransom.
Healthcare has a more specific value. because the information that's located in that is hugely valuable. Think about it. If I'm a diabetic, my data all of a sudden becomes relevant to a huge number of vendors. Anybody who sells any kind of diabetic anything.
But personal information like health card numbers could also be used to steal someone's identity.
Information like that is very, very valuable. That kind of personally identifiable information, in the modern age that we live in, you should really look upon that as a currency. It's currency. You can buy it, you can sell it.
If data is encrypted, it makes it more difficult for hackers to extract and, in turn, to sell.
LifeLabs is the largest.
In an interview on CBC Radio, LifeLabs CEO couldn't answer that simple question.
Was the data encrypted?
So I'm not, I actually don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
If it's not encrypted, then they can copy it, do whatever they want with it.
Which means whatever ransom LifeLabs paid, Canadians' data could still be out there. Other healthcare providers are left to weigh the possible risks of a breach with the benefits of digital records. For Gorfinkel, it's clear.
There is no question in my mind that having electronic health records has saved lives, and countless of lives.
From 24-hour access to a patient's health history to the potential for virtual care. She believes the move towards digital records is not only inevitable, it's the right course to take. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
To Australia now, where it is already Thursday and forecast to be the hottest day in that country's history. Temperatures are expected to reach the mid to upper 40s. Not only is it making life uncomfortable, as Kim Brunhuber shows us, it has intensified the already complicated wildfire situation.
For the past few days, it's been getting hotter and hotter. The record was broken Tuesday. Australia had its hottest ever day with a national average of 40.9 degrees. In some places, temperatures almost hit 45 degrees.
It's crazy. The heat just engulfs everything, and yeah, it's just, there's no escaping it, I guess, is the best way to, you're just hot and sweaty and everyone's irritable.
The heat, combined with drought conditions, exacerbated a crisis that has been ongoing since September. Wildfires, so serious the state's premier declared a state of emergency.
The decision to declare a state of emergency is not one taken lightly. It normally only goes for 7 days, and you have to make sure that conditions are serious enough for that declaration to be made.
Crews are battling more than 100 fires that have killed 6 people, destroyed more than 700 homes, and blanketed towns and cities in smoke.
The fires are totally unprecedented. More country has been burned, more homes lost, 3 times more homes lost than our worst previous fire season in history, and the fires are still burning.
In the middle of Sydney, a burnt Christmas tree made from charred logs, singed tree limbs, a scorched bicycle, and other debris from the bushfire. A poignant reminder, says this Canadian visitor, of a ravaged Australia.
It's an incredible artistic piece, and I think an important symbol of just the crisis that a lot of the country is facing.
A crisis that could get even worse. Today, they say, it could be even hotter. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
We're back from windy Washington in just 2 minutes with more news, including a plan to stop those aggravating scam calls and a type of breast implant that has been linked to cancer, what some women are facing just to get them removed. That's next.
And a case of alleged child abuse live streamed online. Now Calgary police are involved. We'll have that story after the break.
If you're one of the millions of Canadians who has answered one or more of those infuriating scam phone calls, you'll be happy to hear this. Starting tomorrow, there should be fewer of them, fewer attempts to trick you out of your money. Thomas Degla now on the new efforts to cut those callers off.
Can you, first of all, stop crying?
It's the scam that just won't go away and that Canadians have been capturing and sharing online.
From Revenue Canada.
A fraudster delivers supposedly serious news.
We have found that there were some server miscalculations in your text calling.
And demands payment or else.
A reverse warrant has been issued under your name due to the matter of tax evasion and tax fraud.
There's no answer to the problem yet, but this could be step one. A CRTC regulation now coming into effect, requiring telecom companies to block numbers like this, blatantly fake and impossible to call back.
This is a very complicated system where we want to make sure that those vast majority of legitimate calls don't get blocked.
Bell and Rogers both say they're implementing universal call blocking technology, while TELUS says it's found a better solution known as call filtering for its cell phones.
What it won't fix is fake caller ID from real numbers, such as this one from the Canada Revenue Agency. A solution to fight that is expected next fall.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says phone scams bilked users out of more than $24 million in 2019, and this initial measure is a good step.
It will have an impact on some of the fraud operations out there, but how much will remain to be seen.
Anne Murphy took an aggressive approach. Fed up with the fraudsters, she told one the jig is up, knowing Indian police recently arrested dozens running a scam call center targeting Canadians.
I said, "You're going to be shut down." And he said, "That doesn't matter." He said, "We'll lay low for a couple of months and we'll just start up again."
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It could just be the scam that won't go away. Indeed.
That's tax scammers for you.
Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, let's go now to our national newsroom in Vancouver, where Ian is watching some stories from across Canada.
And Adrian, let's begin in Winnipeg, where officials announced a grim record today. Police say a 41-year-old man who was killed in a house fire on Halloween night is now being considered the city's 42nd homicide. That's the most ever in the city in 1 year. And with just 2 weeks left in 2019, the number is nearly double what it was at this time last year. Winnipeg saw more killings by June of this year than it did in all of 2018. The previous high mark, by the way, of 41 was set in 2011. Police in Alberta have laid assault charges against a Calgary woman after she was seen with a child live online. This video appeared earlier this week on a popular online gaming platform, and you can see the woman's webcam in the top right. She has been repeatedly slapping and then biting a screaming toddler, and later appears to roughly handle an infant before throwing the child onto the bed.
It's hard because sometimes these videos are being circulated for years, and it's hard to determine the origin and the time these videos were produced.
Police say multiple tips from the public led them to tracking down and arresting a 31-year-old Calgary woman. 2 children were taken to what police describe as a safe location. And a long-awaited report has found the Vancouver Whitecaps soccer club did not attempt to cover up allegations of harassment made against a former coach. Bob Berarda was released from the Whitecaps and from the Canadian women's national team program in 2008. His departure was announced as a mutual parting of the ways. However, earlier this year, a group of former players issued a statement saying each had witnessed incidents of abuse, manipulation, or inappropriate behavior by Berarda in 2007 and 2008. The new report did find the Whitecaps failed to be transparent with players about the reasons why Berarda left the teams. And one more thing to know, we're getting confirmation tonight that Jody Wilson-Raybould has come to an agreement with the House of Commons administration over her office space. You'll remember the independent MP had been refusing to leave the office that she had been given while she was a cabinet minister under the last government. Wilson-Raybould has now moved into a new office in the Confederation building. We're following the story of a deadly bus crash in Hong Kong, and that's one of the international stories I'll have for you in 10 minutes. But now, back to Washington.
When we come back, textured breast implants banned by Health Canada because of a potential cancer risk. So why are some women paying out of pocket to get them removed? And is it possible tonight's historic impeachment vote is exactly what the Republicans wanted? The questions that linger. We've got some answers, and we're back in 2. It's been a difficult 7 months for many women with textured breast implants because Health Canada banned the prosthetic in the spring, linking them to another form of cancer. And now, as Vicadopi explains, people have had to decide what's riskier, leave them in or take them out.
Health Canada took steps after review.
After losing a breast to cancer 8 years ago, this is how Donna Murphy found out that she was now at risk of a rare lymphoma known as BIA-ALCL.
That develops in the fluid or tissue immediately around the breast implant.
Health Canada banned the sale of BioCell textured breast implants in May, but her hospital sent the letter 6 months later.
It made it seem like it was really no big deal.
The risk of this type of lymphoma is about 1 in 3,000. Untreated, in rare cases, it can kill. Murphy has no symptoms of the cancer, so Ontario says if the implant doesn't affect her health, it's up to her to have it removed.
I can't imagine why any woman would want to have it in them if there's a potential, no matter how small, of it causing cancer.
We didn't ask for the cancer in the first place, so we didn't really ask for this either.
Patricia Mailman has 2 textured breast implants. After a double mastectomy, when she found out about the ban, she immediately wanted her implants replaced with non-textured ones.
I don't have 10 grand to pay for a plastic surgeon to do an explant, and then to have the implant put back in again, I'm sure that would cost more on top of that.
In a reconstructive case,
this plastic surgeon has been dealing with the fallout of the breast implant ban, even performing explant surgeries for free.
Patients are really upset, we're upset, the company's upset, and it's been really, really hard. Like, it's hard to manage.
Textured breast implants were used in thousands of procedures in Canada beginning in 2006. Since then, more than 20 women have been diagnosed with lymphoma. But removing textured implants can lead to serious complications and risk.
Well, you could take them out, but here are the risks. The risks are infection, bleeding, scarring, and you can't guarantee when the implant is under the muscle that you'll be able to take the whole capsule out.
Patricia Mailman will take that risk because her implants have been hurting, so the Nova Scotia government is paying for their removal. She's on a waiting list. As for Donna Murphy, she's paying for her surgery, which is scheduled for March, about a year after her doctor told her he was confident she was finally cancer-free. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
Up next on The National, our U.S. political panel is standing by, ready to help us figure out the implications of this historic evening here on Capitol Hill. What will impeachment mean for 2020? We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Among the international stories we're following tonight, 6 people are dead and 30 more hurt after a double-decker bus crash in Hong Kong. The collision tore away much of the left side of the bus and ripped a jagged hole in its roof. Officials say the bus collided with a tree. 3 women and 3 men were pronounced dead at the scene. The driver has reportedly been arrested. In Bolivia today, an arrest warrant was issued for Evo Morales. The exiled former president has been accused of sedition and terrorism. An interim minister alleges Morales has been promoting unrest in Bolivia since he left office, including ordering supporters to blockade cities. Morales won a 4th straight term in October, but there was evidence of vote rigging, and he was forced to resign. That sparked a wave of deadly protests across the country. Morales is now living in Argentina as a refugee. A New York judge has dismissed the 16-count state indictment against Paul Manafort. Today, a judge ruled the state case against Manafort couldn't proceed on the grounds of double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime. The former campaign chairperson for Donald Trump is already serving 7.5 years for federal financial crimes. The state charges followed a federal plea deal that dropped some federal charges that had initially resulted in a hung jury. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office says it will appeal today's decision. Let's go back to Adrian now in Washington.
And here on Capitol Hill, the debate is over. The votes are cast. Donald Trump has been impeached. But what does that really mean? Where will it lead? What does each party lose or gain? David Frum is a senior editor at the Atlantic. Elaine Kamarek is a senior fellow with the Brookings Institution. And Jay Shabria is a Republican strategist. So thank you all for joining us. And Congress voted to impeach the president. In an odd way, I'm wondering, did both Democrats and Republicans get exactly what they wanted tonight? Elaine, why don't we start with you?
I think they got exactly what they wanted and exactly what everyone anticipated.
Democrats felt that they had to hold the president accountable for his actions, that not doing so would lead to a very unfortunate precedent of giving a president powers that no one, including the founders of the country, thought a president should have. And so I think everyone did what they thought they had to do. Democrats had to impeach. Republicans vigorously defended the president.
Jay, just listening to that, in some way, can you explain why this is a good thing for Republicans, why they may see it that way?
Well, Republicans are going to be raising boatloads and boatloads of cash off of this, and they already have. Tens of millions of dollars are going to be raised off the fact that the president was impeached today. As the vote was being taken, my inbox was being flooded by congressmen all over the place saying, the president was impeached, give me money. And they're going to raise money from it. So from that perspective, it's going to be really positive for them. Secondly, if you've looked in some of these polls in recent days, the president's numbers have actually ticked up during this impeachment process. And secondly, people have started to say, you know what, I'm not sure he should be impeached. So those numbers are changing a little bit as this case was going on.
So, David, Jay's point there about the Republicans sort of, fundraising on this, it seems that the Democrats are kind of doing the opposite in that they aren't talking about it much at all. Is that your sense of their strategy to just get this done and move on?
Well, I think this is one of those conflicts where whatever strategy people have, events take their place. This is a big thing, and it's only going to get bigger. I think it's not right that Donald Trump is in a good position after tonight. Many of us remember the Bill Clinton impeachment, and I think in our minds we're replaying that. On the day that Bill Clinton was impeached in 1998, around this time of year, his opinion, his favorability, which had never dipped below 60% through the whole year of the impeachment struggle, on the night he was impeached, his approval hit 73%. Only a third of the country approved of the Clinton impeachment. Half the country, by some polls, a majority of the country approves the Trump impeachment, and his approval rating is at 43%. I think Donald Trump is going to find himself in a tough position. And when this goes to the Senate, of course the senators are going to try to shut it down as rapidly as possible. But that's going to create an image of that while now the Democrats are in trouble because some of them from more, or some feel pressure, the ones from more conservative districts, in the Senate there are going to be Republicans from Maine, from Colorado, from Iowa, states where Donald Trump is very unpopular, and they are going to be called not only to defend him, but to do so in a way that looks pretty flagrantly unjust.
Elaine, as an outsider here, I found it kind of curious tonight to sort of see the Democrats choose to include only 2 articles of impeachment, the abuse of power, the obstruction of Congress. They could have gone so much further. I mean, obstruction of justice or bribery or emoluments. What is the strategy behind that?
I think the strategy was to keep the focus of the impeachment inquiry on a set of facts about the President Trump's attempt to hold up money for the Ukraine, a set of facts about which really there is no contest. We know the president did this, the president says he did it, and I think that by keeping the question narrow, it's easier to explain to the public that the president was in fact abusing his power. I think all the other issues that he could have been focus of the articles of impeachment were a little bit too complicated, and I think the Democrats made the right decision to keep it on those narrow issues.
Do you agree, David?
Well, in the first great impeachment struggle in American history, presidential history, Andrew Johnson in 1868, there were 11 articles of impeachment. And that didn't make a difference one way or another. They voted on the first article, and when there weren't the votes to remove Andrew Johnson on the first article, everyone understood there wouldn't be the votes on the next 10. And so you only, as Elaine said, made the story more confusing. I think people get what is going on here. The first article covers a lot of ground of abuse of power. The second article refers to Donald Trump not making anybody available to testify. During Iran-Contra, another great upheaval in American life in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan opened the books. He made all of his documents available. He made his private diaries available. He allowed people to testify. And the result was that while it was a convulsive scandal, President Reagan was not impeached because he convinced not only the country but his political opponents, whatever we think about the behavior, the president himself did not do anything culpable.
What do you think we can all expect from President Trump at a Senate trial in the new year? I find this a little hard to read.
I think it's very hard to read, and I think that it's very dangerous to let Donald Trump speak for himself in a situation that is a judicial situation, mostly because he has a bad habit of making up things as he goes along. And his lawyers have been very, very cautious in the past, starting with the Mueller investigation, very cautious about letting him testify, even on his own behalf. So I have a feeling that they will prevail and that he will not appear on the floor of the Senate.
Jay, is that how you think this is going to roll?
Well, I don't think he'll be appearing on the floor of the Senate, no, but he's already gone on record saying that maybe a long trial benefits him. Look, I agree with David. He's not in a great position for re-election. It's not a good position for him, but I also think history's gravity has dissipated here in this scenario. So what I would argue is that a situation like this, where Donald Trump is able to suck all the oxygen out, control the debate, when Democrats are trying to get their message out around the country, that's not a good situation for them either, because right now they've got a Democrat primary going on. They can't talk about the things that they want to convince American people that their lives will be better off under their regime, and Donald Trump can talk about whatever he wants to do, that he's an aggrieved soul. That's a benefit for him.
Okay, that's a really good point, because what actually happens with this 2020 campaign? I mean, I'm sort of trying to imagine that Senators, boy, it's going to hear, Senators Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, they're all going to have to sit in the Senate and be part of the jury and not be out there campaigning. Is that, in a way, not just another win for the Republicans, David?
Well, that's going to be January, and the campaign is going to hot up. But, you know, we don't live in a world in which campaigns are only waged when you are in the particular place where the voters are. Campaigns are also waged on television, and of course fundraising is driven by these important moments on social media. So those senators or members of the House who play an important role, they can also be more visible to people about this. I think you're going to discover also that this, as I said at the beginning, this has its own dynamic. I mean, obviously, as Elaine said, and Jay has said too, the smart thing for Donald Trump is to keep his mouth shut and to keep pretending that the U.S., Canada, Mexico free trade agreement and the China deal are big deals rather than the nothing burgers they really are, and pretend he's got accomplishments, which he doesn't have. He can't do that. I mean, it's terrifying to think that the President of the United States is not a fully rational actor, but he's not a fully rational actor. And if you want to see how not rational he is, reread that crazy 6-page letter he wrote. No one would have advised him to do it. He did it anyway.
Okay, just again, as an outsider, I spare a thought for governing here. I think about what we saw in the UK, how Brexit overtook most of the politics, governing took a back seat. What happens to the business of government in the next few months? How much is likely to still get done, Elaine?
Well, listen, I mean, the irony here is that as this impeachment vote was coming to a head and the debate was so intense, Congress did something it hasn't done in a while, which it actually passed line item spending bills instead of just passing continuing resolutions. And so that, I think, it's kind of the second story and everybody's forgotten about it, but it does show that Congress can walk and chew gum at the same time. They actually are not going to do a budget this year on a continuing resolution. They've actually done it more or less in the way that budgets should be done, whether you like it or not. So I think that governing will still go on. As David mentioned, that we'll probably get 2 trade deals in the near future. I think that there will be things happening, and frankly, it is in the president's interest and it's in the interest of the members of Congress to show that they can do something besides impeachment. And I think that's why we're going to, ironically, we're going to see a lot get done.
Okay, one last thought, very briefly from all of you. What does this mean for future presidents? Is the next president, if a Democrat, now likely to be impeached? Very quickly, David?
Well, the last but one Democratic president was impeached. I think that we live in a time of intensifying partisan discord, but it's also true, if a president can sustain himself in the country, it's very hard to impeach. There are a lot Democrats who wanted to impeach George W. Bush. Nancy Pelosi restrained them. There were certainly members of the Tea Party who would have dearly wished to impeach Barack Obama, but cooler heads prevailed. I think Donald Trump is going to look more and more freakishly unusual as history passes. I mean, he is the most corrupt president in American history, and there really isn't a runner-up. He's also the most abusive and cruel. I just don't think that people are going to look back at this and look at the next president and say, he reminds me of Donald Trump. With any good luck, the next president will not remind you or anyone of anything like Donald Trump.
All right, David, thanks. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Very fast, 15 seconds.
Increased partisanship, not necessarily impeachment. That's what I'd say.
Okay, all right. Elaine, Jay, and David, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
After the break, a major player in the car-sharing industry is leaving North America. We look at why car-to-go is not sticking around.
I'm Jamie Poisson. Tomorrow on CBC's Daily News podcast Front Burner, as Trump's impeachment saga continues, we hear from civilians caught up in the war in eastern Ukraine to understand the need for U.S. military assistance. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Hundreds of thousands of Canadians who use car-to-go will have to find another way of getting around. The company that owns the car share service is pulling out of North America. Salima Shivji now on what went wrong.
This fleet isn't long for the streets of Vancouver.
Super disappointed, knew nothing about it. It's very convenient, it's everywhere, it's inexpensive, it's been a great service.
They seem to be a service that's used very, very frequently and very well. So it's surprising that they'd be going out of business.
Surprise and disappointment, not only in Vancouver, but in Montreal too. It's also on the list of North American cities where these cars used for short trips in urban centers will soon no longer be available. It's been a slow but steady process. The car-sharing company pulled out of Calgary a few months ago and Toronto last year. The company blames what it calls the volatile state of the global mobility landscape and rising infrastructure complexities. Companies speak for problems negotiating parking space in some cities and stiff competition in a crowded scene, particularly from ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft.
You know, there's only one pool of money, and these companies are kind of battling it out, and it does look like car2go is a victim.
But experts also say the company's business model is too narrow.
Car2go strategy only works in neighborhoods that have sufficient density and sufficient origins and destinations that are mixed to mean that you can use the car all day.
That puts them on a battle with all other modes of transport, buses and plain old walking. And so regulars like Jenna Briscoe, who grabs a ride at least once a day, will have one less option.
I had no idea, but it will be very inconvenient.
As these cars slowly disappear before they're gone for good come March. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Vancouver.
When we come back, a teenager who had to put his CPR skills to the test just days after being trained. The moment he saved a life is our moment tonight.
They saved my life. I am very thankful.
When Ahmed Ayash suffered a heart attack last month, his son was able to save his life. He had learned CPR just 2 days before. Today, the 17-year-old was recognized by paramedics. The family's incredible story is our moment of the day.
Certificate of recognition.
Thank you.
For what you did.
Found my mom in the room with my dad. She was like, told him to wake up. And he was just like, his eyes was open and he just like unconscious. Immediately start the compression. I started to do everything just to save his life.
It's difficult enough on somebody that you don't know, but it's even more difficult to provide CPR on somebody that you do know.
I was like crying and everything, and I really don't know how I did this thing.
He told me later that he learned just 2 days before the accident.
When they bring a fake body, I was like, that's why I'm gonna do this. Like, that's never gonna happen.
So I'm giving you this coin that now you're part of the Essex Windsor EMS family.
I am very proud of my son.
And I bet that son is proud of his dad too. It's interesting, Ian, to hear that, it's a family of Syrian refugees. The son saved the father's life. There's no doubt in 2016, when the parents brought the kids to Canada, that they saved the children's lives too. It's kind of an amazing family.
That is a nice thought, and we should point out there is no doubt in the minds of doctors. They told the son that he did indeed save his father's life by starting that CPR right away. And it's a reminder to all of us, Adrian, I'm not sure the last time you had a refresher on CPR training. Mine has been too long. I think every 12 to 15 months you're supposed to get that refresher so that when you're in that situation, hopefully not with a loved one, but whomever, you're able to respond quickly and properly. That is the National for Wednesday, December the 18th. Good night.
Good night.